Hello and welcome to Knitty Cat Crafts. Join me today as I show you how I made this knit hat just in time for the holiday season. Let's begin with the brim of the hat. Here I am casting on using a long tail cast on. Hold the yarn like this, separate the strands with your thumb and index finger, rotate your hand, and then put your needle under this loop, over this one, and pull through the hole. Make sure the yarn is not too tight or too loose on the needle. Continue until there are 81 stitches. It's important to keep those stitches all facing the same direction. And here is my tail, and here's my working yarn, and these are on my right needle. Now, to join in the round, we want to slip purlwise one stitch from the left needle onto the right, and then take that now second stitch and move it over the first stitch and off of the needle. And then just pull that stitch tight just a little bit. Add your stitch marker, and we are ready to begin the ribbing. The ribbing is really simple. Just knit 2 and then purl 2 and repeat to the end of the row. When you get to the end of the row, move your stitch marker and then just repeat that knit 2, purl 2 pattern. Continue until you have 30 rounds. This is obviously going to be a folded brim. If you prefer a brim that doesn't fold, only do 15 rounds or so. And moving on to the body of the hat, I want to quickly show you the pattern. The bottom numbers are the number of stitches that go around the hat, which is 80, and then the numbers going up the right side are the rows or rounds. So there are 22 rows for the body of the hat, and each box represents a knit stitch. Read the pattern from right to left, starting at row 1, stitch 1 in the bottom right corner. As you can see here, the first 2 rows are light green, rows 3 and 4 are dark green, and that's followed by rows 5 and 6, which are white. Then we will continue with the color work starting at row 7. So remember from the pattern, the first 2 rows are light green. This is how I like to add a new color. Slip one stitch from the right needle onto the left, and then holding the tail with my right hand, loop that yarn from under and then over the needle, and then slip that stitch back over. Move your stitch marker, and then I like to hold the 2 tails together while I knit the first few stitches of the new color. When you make it all the way around, knit the last 2 stitches together. I find it helpful to hold the tails with my left hand this time. Pull the tails tight a little bit and then continue with one more row of light green. Now let's add 2 dark green rows using the same method as the light green. Slide one of those stitches over, hold on to the tail, and bring the yarn under and over. Slide the stitch back over and move the stitch marker. Hold on to the tails with your right hand as you knit a few stitches of the new color. When you make it around, knit the last 2 stitches together, holding the tails with your left hand if that's helpful. So like the pattern says, we have completed rows 1 through 4. Now moving on to rows 5 and 6, which is with the white yarn. I never cut the white yarn, so I'm just pulling that yarn up and onto the needle. Continue as we have previously. Here is row 5 with the white yarn. And here is row 6. Alright, and now the first 6 rows of the body are completed. Let's move on to the color work. We will be introducing red yarn for the lettering, and the pattern is appearing now for the fun part. Starting at row 7, remember we are working right to left, so the first 4 stitches are white. Now we need red yarn for the next 2 stitches, which is the bottom of the Y in Jolly. So I'm just holding on to that tail of the red yarn and knitting 2. So we have our 4 white stitches, 2 red stitches. Now pull up that white yarn and we need 3 white stitches, and that's in between the Y and the L in Jolly. Pull up the red yarn because now we need 5 red stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that is the bottom of the L in Jolly. Make sure when you have more than 3 of the same color on your needle that you spread out those stitches before pulling up the new color. So in between the 2 L's we need 2 white stitches. Notice how the white yarn inside the hat is nice and loose. Next we need 5 red stitches. That's the bottom of the second L in Jolly. Spread those stitches out nice on the needle before pulling up the white yarn again. And now we need 3 white stitches, and that's in between the L and the O. Spread those out a little. Bring up that red yarn. Now we are at the bottom of the O in Jolly, so we need 4 red stitches. Spread those out a little bit. Bring up the white yarn. Now we need 4 white stitches, and that's in between the O and the J. Bring up the red yarn, and we need 4 red stitches for the bottom of the J. And next we need 8 white stitches, and that is the number of stitches in between the J and the Y in Holly. Remember, we are still in row 7. So just a quick recap, row 7 started with 4 white stitches and then 2 red for the bottom of the Y, then 3 white stitches, and then we have 5 red stitches for the bottom of the L, 2 white stitches, and then 5 more red stitches for the other L, 3 white stitches, and then 4 red stitches for the bottom of the O, 4 white stitches, and then 4 red stitches for the bottom of the J, followed by 8 white stitches that go between the J and the Y. Moving on, we're still in row 7. We need 2 red stitches for the bottom of the Y in holly, and then 3 white stitches. And now we need 5 more red stitches for the bottom of the L. Now we need 2 white stitches, and we need 5 more red stitches. That's the bottom of the second L in holly. We need 3 white stitches. That's between the L and the O. Now we need 4 red stitches for the bottom of the O. And then 3 white stitches. And now for the H, we need 2 red stitches, followed by 2 white stitches, 2 red stitches, and 3 white stitches. And that is the end of row 7. Here is a quick look at the inside of the hat. See, all of the yarn that I carry over is nice and loose. Now we're moving on to row 8, which is similar to row 7 with minor differences. So starting with 4 white stitches, make sure that's nice and spread out. Bring up that red yarn. We need 2 stitches for the Y. Pull any tails tight as you go. Next, pull up the white yarn. We need 3 white stitches, 5 red stitches, 2 white stitches, 5 red stitches, and now between the L and the O, we only need 2 white stitches this time. And now for the O, we need 6 red stitches. Now we need 2 white stitches. And then for the J, we need 6 red stitches. And now for the space between the J and the Y, we need 7 white stitches. Continue with the pattern. Remember, start each row from right to left and make sure that you space all the stitches out if you have a long run of the same color before bringing up a new color. And finally, we are done with the body of the hat and we can move on to the top of the hat. I did add a row of the white yarn just knit all the way around before we start the decreases. To start the decreases, knit 6 and then knit 2 together, repeat to the end of the row. Row 2, knit all stitches. Row 3, knit 5 and then knit 2 together, repeat to the end of the row. Row 4, knit all stitches. Row 5, knit 4 and then knit 2 together to the end of the row. Row 6, knit all stitches. Row 7, knit 3 and then knit 2 together. Repeat to the end of the row. Row 8, knit all stitches. Now I'm going to be switching to my DPNs. So for row 9, we're going to knit 2 and then knit 2 together. Repeat all the way around. And then when I get all the way around, I have 9 stitches, 9 stitches, and then 12 stitches on that last needle. And then row 10, we're going to knit all stitches. Row 11, knit 1 and then knit 2 together all the way around. At this point, we'll have 6 stitches, 6 stitches, and then 9 stitches on that third needle. And then row 12, knit all stitches. Row 13, knit 2 together all the way around. Then we have 3 stitches, 3 stitches, and 4 stitches. And then row 14, knit all stitches, and that is our last row. Cut the yarn and then put that tail on a tapestry needle and just weave that tapestry needle through each loop as you pull them off the needles. Tighten the yarn, and here is the top of the hat. You can clearly see all of the decreases we just made. And here is the final Holly Jolly hat. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I hope you enjoy the holiday season.